Proverbs 12:9. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoureth himself and lacketh bread. In most of the Bible, context is very important. But in much of the Proverbs, each verse is a message unto itself. And such is the case here, as we see this word despised in both verses 8 and 9. Verse 8 says, a man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. It goes on to say, he that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoureth himself and lacketh bread. And frankly, that doesn't make sense when you put them together. But we also have to look at context within the sentence and understand that the word despise, a different Hebrew word in both cases, by the way. The first one is a place of shame and disrespect. The second one refers to our position in society. And so as we look at verse number 9, we find that the first man here, he's one who works hard to provide his bread. He's diligent enough in his business that it requires him to have hired help. The second man, however, is full of pride, but has little because he's not diligent. He's like the child that is constantly begging his mommy to watch him. It's, mommy, watch me, and never really accomplishes anything. You know, so many people today live for the image, more perhaps than ever before. The media, we find, exalts image. Peer pressure is very powerful, not just among teenagers. Easy credit makes it possible to live far above your means. And corrupt bankruptcy laws allow pretenders to start over when creditors claim their assets. It's a powerful temptation that parents and pastors must teach and warn against. You know, it's common today for people to buy expensive homes and cars, but have only plastic lawn furniture for the chairs in their house. It looks good from the street, and people don't see what really it all is. Many years ago, I had a man call me. He had a need, and so he told me how to get to his house, and it was up rather large lane. I finally get to where the house is, and I'm thinking this man is probably living in squalor. He needs some very basic help. And I look up and I see this huge house, 2, maybe 3 times the size of my own. Big yard that's there, though it hadn't been mowed. And as I drive up the driveway, I find sitting at the top a rather new Cadillac. And so here's a man with a Cadillac, a large house on 2 or 3 acres plot. But as I knocked on the door and he invited me in, I found that there was no furniture in the rooms. It was like walking into some sort of a, I want to say mortuary, some sort of a place with just nothing there. And I'd knocked on the door, and he'd actually threw an intercom that said, come up to his room. And I was a little skeptical. I walked up a few steps in what was really a split-level living room. And I come to the first door and look inside, and there he is laying in a bed, a single bed. I was immediately taken back because as I looked, I saw there was cartons, leftover pizza boxes and empty sacks from takeout restaurants, all sorts of stuff piled up. It was full of stuff in that room. And I looked at that and I thought, my goodness, here's a man that a few weeks earlier, as I realized it, I had seen him at the grocery store. And he was dressed real finely. He was walking around big shotty and everything. And he wanted to leave a big impression. But he that honored himself lacked bread. In fact, the reason he called me is he wanted me to go into the sink and get him a glass of water. He couldn't even get out of bed. You know, seeking societal acceptance provides no bread for us. It's the love of money rather than the usage of finances that captures men's hearts today. It is borrowed substance, but having no contentment. If there's a need today, that is that we would be content with what God gives us. We would be a people who are willing to work hard enough that it might take another to help with the work, and to be content with what God gives us. Not seeking our own honor, not wanting to sit in the highest seat, but taking the lowest and allowing others to lift us up. A place of humility. How God needs that kind of thing in our lives. For He's seeking those who are humble enough to place themselves under His marvelous hand. I trust today that you will have a great day and that you look to the Lord in all things.